Hey guys, it's Mrs. Angstadt back again for the rest of chapter 1. If you remember when we left off yesterday, the gym teacher had just dropped off one of the students' jackets that she lost. Thomas T. True waved his hand and Mrs. Brisbane called on him. "Don't go to that lost and found," he said. "I went there last year and it was a scary place." "Now, what was scary about it?" Mrs. Brisbane asked. Thomas's eyes grew wide. There were creepy things there like spider webs and claws. I felt a shiver. Some of my classmates giggled. "Oh, and a dead snake." Thomas stopped and thought. Maybe it was alive, and I'm pretty sure that I saw a severed hand. I felt a quiver. There were gasps and more giggles, and some of my friends went, "Ew." Mrs. Brisbane walked between the tables toward Thomas. "Are you sure that's true?" "Yes, ma'am," he said. "At least that's what I remember." "Well, I don't think Mrs. Wright would keep any of those things in her lost and found," Mrs. Brisbane said. "Maybe you just imagined it." Thomas thought for a second. "Maybe, but I don't think so." Suddenly, the bell rang, and my friends jumped up from the chairs. I don't recommend doing that. "Slow down, Simon," was the first one out the door, and my other friends were close behind him. After all of my classmates had left room 26, Mrs. Wright came back in. "That Phoebe is quite forgetful," she said. "Have you noticed?" "Yes, I have. We're working on it," Mrs. Brisbane said. I certainly figured out that Phoebe had a problem remembering things like homework and lunches, but I hadn't figured out why. All I really knew about Phoebe was that she lived with her grandmother, who seemed like an unsqueakably nice human. Mrs. Wright nodded politely and headed for the door, but before she left, she turned and said, "Please try to encourage your students to visit the lost and found. It's right in my office inside the gym." "I'll do that," Mrs. Brisbane said. Mrs. Brisbane tidied up her desk for a few minutes. Then she wandered over the table where Og and I live, next to the window. "Have a good night, fellows," she said. "I hope today wasn't too pie-whacking for you. See you in the morning." She laughed and then she left, just like any other day. "See you in the morning." That's what she said. I remember it so well. Later that night, Aldo came in to clean the classroom, as he does every night. "Never fear, Aldo's here," he boomed. Then he laughed, which made his big furry mustache shake. He went right to work, moving the tables and sweeping the floors, humming a happy-sounding song. When he got close to Mrs. Brisbane's desk, he stopped and picked up the red book. "Hey, Sherlock Holmes, I love these stories," he said, thumbing through the pages. "I remember that one about the red-headed guy." "Tell me what happens," I shouted. Even Og splashed around at his tank. "Bong, bong, bong," he twanged. "Sorry, I don't have time to read to you," he told us. "Too bad you can't read it to yourself." Aldo probably knows me better than any of my human friends, but even he doesn't know that I can read. It's not easy for a small hamster to read a big, big, big book. That's why I like it when Mrs. Brisbane reads to us. I decided I could wait until the next day to hear her read more of the Red-Headed League. But it was nice to know that Aldo liked Sherlock Holmes as much as I do. After Aldo left, the room was silent. Og didn't splash. He didn't even say boing. What was he thinking about? We're good friends, but Og will always be a mystery to me. Humans are also very mysterious to me. I've learned a lot about them, but there are still so many things I don't understand. I took out the little notebook I keep hidden behind my mirror and started scribbling in it with my tiny pencil. Mysteries about humans. Why do they keep odd and unpleasant pets like dogs and cats when they could have a very nice hamster like me? Why do they throw little bits of leftover food away when they could store it like I do in my bedding or in my cheek pouch? Where are humans' cheek pouches? Why do humans laugh when they talk about poo? Especially my poo. Mysteries about frogs. Why don't frogs have fur or even hair? Why can't frogs act just a little more like hamsters? I wasn't sure those mysteries would ever be solved. Humphrey's Detectionary. Even smart detectives like Sherlock Holmes can't solve a mystery without a clue. All right, that's the end of chapter 1. Come back tomorrow and we'll go to chapter 2.